Hello, I'm Matt. I'm on the Astro core team, and I'm here to talk about Astro 6. It launched this week. Perfect timing, came out on Tuesday. I didn't know that when I pitched this talk, so the title that you will see on your program is saying what's coming up in Astro 6, but now it's what has happened in Astro 6. So, who am I? I'm Matt, this is my site. I have been building for the web for not quite since it looked like this. I'm on the Astro core team, and I maintain quite a lot of open source projects. There's a few of them up there. I used to be on the Gatsby core team as well, but now I work at Cloudflare, where my job is making frameworks, all frameworks work well. So, how many people here have actually used Astro before? So it's quite a few, you know. I mean, I understand here that this is not an Astro conference, and Astro is not just about Vue, but there is quite a bit of Vue in there. But I'll give a short intro to Astro for people who don't really know about it too much. Astro is the web framework for content-driven sites. It's built on Vite, and we don't try to be a framework for everybody. It's not, if you're building a dashboard or something like that, or a chat app or something, you probably don't want to be building it with Astro. But if you are building a content-driven site, so blogs and portfolios, docs, e-commerce, then we think that Astro is the best choice. And devs love it. It's #1 for satisfaction in the state of JS for 3 years running now. The downloads have just gone through the roof. I mean, been a lot, you know, people have clearly been doing a lot of vibing since January, but we've basically trebled the downloads in the last year. And lots of sites are using it for, you know, massive global brands and weird little dev portfolio sites that are supposed to look like 35-year-old Macs. So, what does an Astro page look like? This is an Astro page. This is a valid Astro site, an Astro page. It's just HTML. If you know HTML, you know how to write an Astro page. But it can do more. If you add a front matter fence, that area at the top is now TypeScript that runs at build time. And you can pull in components and do all kinds of stuff in there, and that just works. But if you need some interactivity, you can pull in framework components. So I've pulled in a Vue component here. I've told it to hydrate when the page loads. And then you can just pull that in there. And it also supports React, Svelte, Solid, and so on. But you can even mix those in the same page if you want to be crazy. And if you add that, then it turns it into server-side rendering. So it's rendered SSR instead of being rendered at build time. And what this means is that Astro is really fast out of the box. I mean, you have to try hard to make Astro slow in the browser. It's pure HTML, and you know, HTML, when it's just HTML, is fast. So, but then when you do have the interactivity, you are doing it on your own terms. You're saying how much you need. You need that little bit of interactivity in there, and you'll pull that in, and that will do it. So, Astro, I've said, is for content-driven sites. So we have some extra tools in there for helping manage content. Here is how you define a content collection. So content collections are a way of managing all of your content that you have in a site from wherever it's coming from. A lot of people have big folders of Markdown that they use because, you know, Astro is awesome for doing docs sites. And this is how you would do that. You just basically say, here's pointed at a folder. These are the Markdown files, and you can define a schema. So if you do that, then it's passed at runtime and type checked, and you get get all the full TypeScript types and everything in there. And then in your page, you just call getEntry, load it, you render it, and there it is on the page. And it's really as simple as that. And I think, you know, it's a lot of people that keep asking me, I mean, they genuinely ask me why do I think that people like using Astro? And I think it's just really easy to get into it, you know, and it makes it easy to get started and easy to do the right thing. But loaders aren't restricted to just the file system. So here, you know, this is the one that we saw before, but you can also write a loader that pulls from any API, a CMS or database or whatever, and you define it in the same way. So here we've got one that's loading from a store. You put the loader in there, schema in the same way, and then you can just use it in the same way. You get entry, pull a product, mix and match, and it just works in there. So that's how content collections have worked up until Astro, you know, before Astro 6. The problem there is that obviously all of this data is loaded at build time. And even if you're running in SSR, it's still the data that was loaded at the point of the build. So that's great if your pages don't change very often. But if you are using, say you're doing something that like changes regularly, or you're editing a CMS or something like that, you can't use content collections. You know, you lose the benefits of having a content collection. You have to hit the APIs and stuff manually, which, you know, I mean, it's not as nice. So in Astro 6, we've added live collections. So these are basically exactly the same in terms of how you use them, except for they run at runtime. So you can live data that updates, and the point is that it works, you can use it in just the same way, and you get all of the nice developer experience that you get from other content collections, like all the type safety and the way that it's all centralized, and the way that you can reuse all the loaders and everything. You use it inside you define it in a very similar way. You just create the loader, and there it is. And it's just defining a live collection instead of defining a build time collection. But obviously, the problem with live data is you are having to hit your API every time. So, you know, obviously, that is not going to be as fast as having a fully cached data that is already there at runtime or pre-rendered. So what you're going to run into is that, you know, you want to be caching this. Now, you can do caching with Astro now. You can set your response headers and cache it like that, but it's not very ergonomic. So what we have done is we are in Astro 6, we are adding root caching so this is experimental in Astro 6. But let me I'm going to try and show you how this works. So let's go. So this beautiful site here, I'm going to blame on Claude. I said, build me a demo site, and pointed at the docs. I didn't tell it to create every possible Dutch stereotype that you might have heard of, but it saw it was for Vue.js Amsterdam. So obviously, that assumes that that's all that Dutch people want to learn about. So anyway, here is this lovely site. Let's look at some waffles. It's got some Vue components in there for adding to cart, and yeah, so you've just got that, and you can see that these Vue islands are hydrated, but the rest of it is all static. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch us over to the code, which I have got on the wrong screen. It's doing so well. It really doesn't want me to drag it up to the other monitor. There we go. There you go. So let's make this a little bit bigger. So this is how we are loading this is how we're defining the live collection. This looks like how we are, how I showed it on the screen before. This is showing where we're defining this product loader. Now this loader here is a fake one that I've created, but this just shows how simple it is to define. So it's just a live loader is just an object with two functions, load collection and load entry. Load entry, it literally just grabs the data, returns ID data. And then this is the secret. This here is a cache hint. And what we've got here is a last modified time coming from there and the tags. And what we're doing here is we're tagging it with the ID of the project. We've also added with the product, and we're also adding a category tag there as well. Now, this ID thing here has to be unique across your site. And then what we're going to do there is I'm going to show you how we use this in the site. Now, I'm grabbing this entry here using getLiveEntry. I'm pulling it from the products. And then this part here is I am calling Astro cache set on that entry that I've just grabbed. Now, what this does is this tells Astro this page uses this data. We may try and make it run automatically, but at the moment, it's something that you opt into. And this is basically telling Astro, this is a thing that you need to depend on. Keep an eye on this. We'll look at that. We'll look at this one later. If we go back to our page here, we can see that this is actually cached. We can see this. I'm going to make this a bit bigger so I can actually see. You can see that this one was there, was rendered at 1428, and as I reload it, nothing is changing. So here's our waffles. There, 1631. That was just now. And as I reload it, it's not updating. So this means that this has been cached. So obviously, waffles are amazingly delicious, and there's been a big run on them. So you decided that we need to bump the price. So we hit on the thing to bump the price here. Price has gone up. It's pretty shockingly expensive, I have to say. But people still love them. So we go back to here, we reload it. Oh, no, obviously, it's cached, not rocket science here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit invalidate. I'm going to go back there. I'm going to reload that. It's updated it. It's invalidated the cache. And then if we go back to the index page, it's also invalidated this one as well. Now, so this here is running on a, let me just switch back to my slides. This that I've been showing you there is the node provider. This is running experimental that we launched last week, or this week even, and this current one is just an in-memory cache. So it's not doing anything special, and it only works on node because it doesn't make any sense to have a memory cache on there. So this is not so interesting, but we don't really want you to use our built-in caching. That is only there for places where you can't run a proper cache. And what I mean by a proper cache is one from a CDN provider. So I've got Cloudflare there, I work there, that's not, that's just, it's just one example. But this isn't ready yet. This will be shipping in the next few weeks. But basically the idea is that platforms like Cloudflare and Netlify and Vercel have got really sophisticated programmable caches now. And these are just real HTTP caches, so using the web platform. So instead of inventing our own caching, we are doing this thing that we always try to do with Astro, which is to use the web platform. So we are just using headers. We are using the bog standard cache headers. Now, that doesn't necessarily, that might not be particularly interesting. We're just sending a cache header. You could do that, you can do that by hand. But we are also wrapping their cache invalidation. Now, that is one where each platform is different. They've all got their own ways of purging their cache. We are wrapping around that. You just call Astro cache set, or you call Astro cache invalidate, and it does it all behind the scenes. And they all support the same cache control headers there. So you can do the ISR type thing with the stale while revalidate. You can do cache tagging. You can invalidate that really anywhere. And this works across different providers. What I would really love is that we would hope that this API, this cache API is pluggable enough that people can implement cache providers for Fastly, or for ones like for Redis or whatever, and that is going to be something that means that this can be used absolutely everywhere. So I'm going to just switch back to my and so I'm going to show what this actually looks like, because what we saw just there was only the only this in-memory thing, but we want to see the real deal here with the cache header. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this memory cache, and I'm going to change it over to this CDN cache provider. So I've created a CDN of my own. Don't tell my bosses. This is a very simple one, but this is just actually showing how simple it is to implement. It is basically just literally here. This is the API for creating a cache provider. Set headers, invalidate. So, anyone can make that. And this is what I'm doing for the headers. It's a bit messy. We'll make some helpers to make this easier. And then for invalidate, I'm just logging it. So now I've changed this here, so I am going to have to rebuild, because this doesn't work in dev, because you don't want your caching happening while you're in dev, because that way lies madness. So what I've now got is I've got this so I've now got this new CDN cache provider that I've got in there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open my my cache tools here, and I'm going to go to the network tab. Let's go to, so I'm going to reload this, and then what we're going to see here is, nope. We've got all of these cache tags that have been associated with this page. So this is the tags for every product that's on here. So if I then go to another page and load this one here, you can see that you've just got the product and the category food. Then we've got these CDN cache control headers. I've set up stabilise, validate, and all that kind of thing for it. And then this isn't actually caching now, because this is a fake CDN. But what this would do, if you had a real CDN, is it would see this cache control header. If you've not seen CDN cache control, it is a web standard one, but is designed just for CDN, so your browser will ignore it. So it should be used by the CDN that then just handles it. But the point about this that I'm trying to get at is that because this abstracts everything away, you can just, if you're writing some code, you don't need to think, oh, am I on Vercel? Do I need to use purge cache, or do I need to use Vercel cache tag, or do I want to use netlify cache tag? And if you're writing a library, so say you are writing a loader for a CMS, you don't want to have to tell them that, oh, if you're on this platform, you use this way of doing it. That is all abstracted away. All you need to do is call Astro cache set or Astro cache invalidate. And it just makes everything a hell of a lot simpler. And I'm just going to finally just show the way that the invalidation works. So when I was hitting that invalidate endpoint, all it was doing here was hitting this API that I've got. This is just an API endpoint. And here it is, cache invalidate tags. And realistically, what you would do this for would be, say, you would have a webhook from a CMS, for example, would call out this, and it would say, okay, you've edited a page. This is the object that has changed, and we are going to invalidate everything that's on that that uses that object. And that doesn't necessarily need to be one page to one object. So, if you are doing a complex page that uses like lots of images and things like that from a CMS, you can pass those all to Astro cache set, and it will merge them and create the union of all of the tags. And then when you edit one icon of one caption of one thing, it will invalidate every page that uses that image. So that is the way that live collections are going to be working with root caching, coming very soon. So I'm going to move over back to my slides. So, next up, next feature for Astro 6. Astro 6 includes automatic content security policy support. Now, if you have ever done this by hand, you will know what this is a big deal this is. If you've never done this by hand, you will be going, what's a content security policy? Content security policy are a browser security feature, and they are, bar none, the best weapon that you have got against things like cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. Basically, what they are is an allow list of scripts and things like that that are allowed to run on your site. And it covers everything, so whether you can load a font or whether a script or styles or anything like that. You can set it as a meta tag or an HTTP header, and the browser will block any script or style or image that doesn't match that. Now, if it's such a powerful thing, why do so many sites still get cross-site scripting vulnerabilities? Because CSPs are a massive pain to do. They are really, really annoying. You've basically got to do all of these things of getting hashes of every script that has to update every time you change any of the content, or you have to set a nonce value, which has to change on every request and be applied into the HTML. It's just really annoying. And basically, we decided that we needed to do something better about this. And it's really, it's been a massive amount of work to get this going. But what we have done is we now can manage to keep track of every single inline script, or whether it's a loaded, if it's a linked script or anything like that. We keep track of everything. And then this is how you enable it in Astro 6. That's all you need. That sets everything up automatically. You can add extra bits in there if you want. So if you say want to do third-party embeds or something like that, you can add them in there. But this, if you just drop that in there, your site will suddenly be blocking like 95% plus of any vulnerabilities like that. So I am going to show an extremely quick demo of this because I already have that demo there. It is the this demo. Now, you may have spotted this already. This is the content security policy header that came from this. Really, do you want to be generating this by hand? Each of these here, so if we say this is the script, this is fonts are saying you can load any fonts from this origin. Scripts, these are ones that you're only allowed to load ones that have got these hashes, and it's the same with styles and everything, all like that. And it just works. Just literally, I just added that line and it just did it. So that's pretty cool, I reckon, anyway. Next up, fonts. So I'm going to take a sip. So content sites. Fonts are important. Content sites are about reading, so typography matters. This is another Claude special here. I did this on the Eurostar on the way over. I said, do something that uses Google Fonts, and I wanted to demonstrate it. This is real recording. What you can see here is the way that it jumps around. Now, this is called the flash of unstyled text. Now, Google Fonts are brilliant. They're great that you've got all of these fonts that you can have, but Google Fonts are free, but they've got strings attached, And they are free only in as much as you are paying for them with your users' privacy. And it's not your privacy to spend. So the conclusion is you shouldn't use these third-party font services. Whether or not these legal things stand, I think personally, ethically, you shouldn't be using them. So you should self-host them. And that's annoying. So what we can do is we can make that easy for you. And we can make it so that we can do some extra little tricks to stop that jumping around flash of unstyled text. And this is how you do it. This is live in Astro 6 now. You define the font provider. Oh, look, I'm using Google again. You can still use the Google fonts because it doesn't tell anything about the user. It just downloads them as you're getting them built. And then you just set all the settings for them, and it downloads them at build time, so there's no GDPR stuff, and then it generates size-adjusted fallbacks to make sure that the things don't jump around. So what that basically means is it will say, you know, you are using a fancy serif font that you're loading from Google. We're going to do a placeholder where we use Georgia that we specially hint and adjust so that it fits. That is powered by Unifont and Capsize under the hood. Thank you, Daniel. The example here is Google, but it also supports loads of others thanks to Unifont. So it handles like Bunny and Font Source and even Adobe. And I'm going to show you the fonts. I'm not going to show you the fonts because I've only got 2.5 minutes, so I'm going to skip straight forward to this one. This is a little lesson for all open source maintainers. If you get the opportunity to nerd snipe somebody from E18E, jump right on it. I don't know how many of people know E18E. I know there had some stuff yesterday. This is James. This is what happened the next day after that. James opened a PR, 11 times faster. This is an example of the other thing that we've been focusing on. We have been doing all of these optimizations of the builds and rendering of Astro, going through everything from the compilation and the rendering pipelines, because, you know, Astro originally was not really optimized for SSR or anything like that. It was, it was good enough, but not good enough, but not, not first class. It's getting better. It's getting a lot better. So this is what we've got. But the big thing that we've done is this next new project. The original Astro compiler was written in a weekend. Nate, who wrote it, it was the first Go code he'd ever written. This was pre-vibe coding, obviously. This was 2021. Now, that considered, obviously Nate is amazing. He's now does Clack, which is used by absolutely everything. But he wrote this, and it did us really well for a long time. That go for put in a lot of work. But it was hard to maintain. So we've done the traditional thing. We've rewritten it in Rust, and we've done the newly traditional thing, which is we've based it on top of OXC. So Erica, who's built it, we're actually using a fork of OXC at the moment, but we should hopefully get that upstreamed. We forked OXC to add support for .astro files. And obviously the nice thing about that is because it's OXC, this will give us support for OXLint and OX format as well. So I'm really excited about those because I'm huge fans of those projects, and we all are. And we decided to keep it in the tradition of before, and this new one was also written in a weekend. This was written by Erica with a little help from someone called Claude. As part of the work, though, this was the first thing that she did was write a proper formal spec for the Astro language, which there hadn't been. The spec was whatever worked in the old compiler, and because of that, because she put in the hours to make the spec, then the compiler worked really well. Now, this is experimental in Astro 6. We're already seeing some great benefits, so we recommend you give it a try. And then the final thing is the Vite environment API. Now, this is pretty in the weeds. I know really, in terms of any audience, probably more people here know what the environment API is than anywhere else, but it is still pretty much in the weeds. The important thing is that this unlocked the biggest project that we've worked on in Astro 6. The previous version predated SSR of the dev server. We've written an entirely new dev server, and the previous one predated SSR in Astro. And basically, we've done a full rewrite of the dev server that uses full SSR all the way through it, so you don't get so many of the works on my machine things. So it removes a whole class of bugs. And it also unlocks some cool stuff like the fact that you can run, because it's running the same thing as in SSR, you can do stuff like you can run the real Cloudflare runtime in dev. So it's not being emulated, it's the real thing. And then there's a slide I had to add. So speaking of things built on Cloudflare workers, most of you probably saw Evan announce Void this morning. These primitives here are the sort of thing that wouldn't have worked in dev on Astro before, but with this, because of the environment API, they will be able to do this. And this applies to all the platforms. Now, this is my caveat. I haven't actually checked this with Evan. I was going to ask him, but your mileage may vary. So this applies to any platform. This isn't just Cloudflare. This applies to any platform that's got custom APIs that run at runtime only and not in dev. So that's Astro 6. Launched on Tuesday. We've had over 1,000 contributors to Astro since it started. And every launch blog, we thank everyone who contributed to the latest release. And for Astro 6, that list was so long, I'm just going to show you their faces. We've had over 130, I think it's more like 140 contributors to just Astro 6. And that doesn't include everyone who did like wider ecosystem stuff. So thank all of you. And so yeah, that's me. Some come by and say hey, hi later, find me on Blue Sky. And I also find some of these limited edition Astro View mission patch stickers. So thanks a lot, everybody. Bye.